Okay. So this is the data sufficiency sequence and series worksheet. Um, all those who have come to this channel video, please solve the worksheet first and then come to this video for solutions. This is only a solutions video. It's meant for advanced math learners, yeah, or who's at an advanced stage of data sufficiency. Yeah. All right. Let's begin with the first question. If a sequence ABCD repeats infinitely, then what is the sum of the sequence from A10 to A101? Now out here, we need to find out the sum of this term to this term. We'll have to include the A10 and A101, okay? Yeah. Now, we don't need to really calculate, yeah? We just need to figure out if we can get to the answer. Okay, first statement. A0 is equal to the first term of the given sequence. So the first term is this one, A. So A0 is A. Okay, and so on. So A1, A2, dot, dot, dot. It goes on. All right. So we don't have, they're asking the sum. So we need a number, sum meaning a number. So with A0 being A, it's understood. Yeah. So now we don't have anything in front of us, no numbers. So A is out, D is out. We left with B, C, and E. Now A is equal to negative 2B equal to 3C equal to minus 4D. All right. Does it give us a number? Does it tell us that, you know, um, does it give us a value? So let's see. Suppose we say A is 48. Okay. Then 2B is this minus 2B is also equal to 48, right? However, it's minus 2 times minus 24, that will make it 48, right? So therefore, if A is 48, then B is negative 24. Okay. And C is also 48. So it's 3 times 16. So C is 16, right? And then you have 48 for negative 4D also. So negative 4 times negative 12 gives me. So D is negative 12. Okay. So now we have the numbers, but we could have very well taken a number like 24, right? And if we had taken half of 48, like 24, then all of these numbers would become then 24, negative 12, 8, and negative 6. As you can see, if A is 24 and this is 24, negative 2 times negative 12 will give me positive 24. So yeah, it works out that way. So the numbers keep changing depending on what value of A you take, right? Or B or C or D, whichever you want to begin with. All right. So the second statement also doesn't give us the sum. All right. Meaning after finding out A, B, C, D, right, we can figure out the A 10th to A 101. But then if our A, B, C, D itself keep changing depending on what value of A you take, then B doesn't answer. Now taking both statements together, yeah, that what is the sum of the sequence from A0 to A101? So that first statement was pretty much redundant. It was understood that this A would be A0, A1, A2, A3. So taking together also it doesn't solve the question. Therefore, the answer is E, right? Okay. Second one. What is the 18th term of the sequence X, Y, 4, 5, dot, 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 dot? Okay. So we need to know the pattern of the sequence, right? So every term from the third term onwards is a sum of the previous two terms, right? So every term from the third term onwards is a sum of the previous two terms. So does A answer the question? So I know that every term from the third term onwards is the sum of the previous two terms. So we'll start with 5. the fourth term, yeah. This fourth term 5 is equal to the third term 4 plus y. So obviously this y has to be 1. And if y is 1, right? And if you look at the third term, which is 4, yeah, 4 will be equal to x plus y. And we know y is 1 from here, right? Y is 1. So if y is 1, x is 3. So from the sequence, or from the question stem and the first statement, we do get the answer for the 18th term. So I'm not going to spend time calculating the 18th term. It's understood. So you can I'll try the first 6 to 7. So we know x is 3, y is 1, then we have 4 and 5, correct? And then we have 9, and then we have 14, and so on. We'll find out the 18th term. So we are able to get to the answer using the first statement. So B, C, E is out, is either A or D, right? X is 2 more than Y. Okay, X is 2 more than Y, but the relationship, the pattern is understood from A, not from B. B only tells me that X is 2 more than Y. So the relation is X is 2 more than Y. That means um, X will be equal to Y plus 2, right? If X is 2 more than Y, then we add 2 to Y, it'll become equal to X, correct? Yeah, all right. Or we subtract 2 from X, gives you Y, but again, we don't know how the sequence, increases, decreases, or what is the pattern. So B doesn't answer the question. Therefore, D is out, only A is the answer. So second question, A is the answer. Yeah. Third one. Is the sum of an infinite sequence RSTU dot 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 equal to 2R? Okay, so it's an infinite sequence, and they're asking is the sum equal to 2R? So this becomes a little bit, you know, uh, expression based, or a little bit technical, or you can say a little bit advanced. So sequence given above is in geometric progression where there is a constant ratio half between consecutive terms. So the first statement, yeah, it tells us that the sequence is a geometric progression. Now remember, in geometric progression you have sequences like 2, 4, 8, 16. So out here the ratio is given as 2, all right, or the multiplier. Out here it says it's half. So suppose if it's R, then S is R by 2, T is R by 4, and so on. Are you with me? Correct. So this infinite sequence from the question stem, we don't know whether it's a geometric progression or no, but statement A tells us it's a geometric progression. Correct. And so what are they asking? What is the sum of the infinite? Is the sum of the infinite sequence equal to 2R? Okay. So looking at the first statement, it tells us that there's a constant ratio half between them, right? Yeah. So we know that S is half R, right? T is half of half R, so it's R by 4, correct? Yeah. So now, uh, for those people who know geometric progression, the sum is given as, yeah, this formula. All right. But I'm going to use the formula that I've learned. Yeah. This is the formula for the sum. All right. And it's an infinite sequence where A is the first term. So we have R, correct? And then we have 1 minus the ratio. Ratio is half to the power n upon 1 minus half. Okay. Yeah. Right. So looking at the sequence itself, you can figure out that this is R, yeah, the first term, okay, and then we have 1 minus half to the power n. In finite sequence, half to the power n becomes negligible. Why? Because half to the power 1 is half to the power 2 is 1 by 4, half to the power 3 is 1 by 8. So if you look at this number, this is 0.5. This is 0.25. This is 0.125. And so it keeps on decreasing. So when it's half the power n, it becomes so small that it's negligible. So that half the power n, you can just write it down as 0. Yeah. Upon 1 minus half is half. So what you end up getting is r upon half, which is equal to 2r. So clearly, out here, the first statement gives us the answer. Are you with me? The first statement gives us the answer, correct? So B, C, and E is out. Are you with me? Okay. Sequence given about the geometric progression where there is a constant ratio half between consecutive terms. All right. So we do get the answer from the first statement. Now the second statement. Sum of a sequence in geometric progression is given by the expression this, where m is the constant ratio is first term and n are the number of terms in the given sequence. Now see, like I said, this is an advanced and a little bit technical. So you are you ought to know this formula. Okay, you ought to know how it goes about. Correct? Yeah. And if you know this formula, then you can work it out. Yeah. And some people are so good that they can actually figure out the answer without the formula using other expressions, right? Yeah. And probably that expression that they're using, probably binomial theorem or something or the other, they're using, they already know their math. And this formula that we've come up with, sum is equal to, or this standard general formula that you find in books, is probably based on those theorems. So you can also get to the answer without the formula if you know the advanced level algebra. Okay. Anyway, so the second statement was not important. It's not required. Okay. All right. But um, from the GMAT perspective, yes, you can get to the answer to R. All right. Or from the perspective of any other standardized test, yeah, competitive test, yeah, you can get to the answer without the formula. So therefore, I think B is not required, right? So therefore, B is not going to give us the answer. Yes. In any which ways, we do not know the ratio in statement B. All right. In statement B, do not know the ratio. We only know the formula. And those people who already know the formula, you don't need to use B as the answer. So A gives you the answer, right? Third question, the answer is A. Okay, moving on. Question 4. 5,000 trees are planted evenly on both sides of a one-way road. Yeah. Then find the length from the first tree until the last tree, ignoring the thickness of the tree. All right. So on both sides of the road, yeah. So this cross is 5,000 trees are planted evenly on both sides of the. So it is kind of, you know, parallel to the road, facing each other. So that is given in statement A. So let's look at A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. First statement. So we have to find the length of the length from the first tree until the last tree. Yeah. All right. So each tree is planted with a gap of 20 meters. So there's a 20-meter gap. Yeah. Between two of them. Yeah. Along the road on both sides of the road, such that the two trees are found facing each other across the road. So see, this extra information was intentionally added so that you don't think anything otherwise. All right. Yeah. So clearly the 5,000 trees are distributed evenly, 2,500 on one side of the road and 2,500 on the other side of the road. Now that's the important part that you need to figure out. Yeah. And each tree is planted with a gap of 20 meters between them along the road on both sides of the road, such that two trees are found facing each other across the road. So then find the length from the first tree until the last tree, ignoring the thickness of the tree. So we are not including the the thickness of the tree. So if you ignore that, then you can get to the answer as to the length from the first to the last. So they're not asking the total distance. They're simply asking if this is my 25th, 100th tree out here. Yeah. And this is my first tree out here, that one. Then I know that there are, so for example, if you look at 1, 2, and 3, if there are three trees, let's say this is the first tree and this is the third tree, then there are two gaps, all right, of 20 meters and 20 meters. So if there are three trees, there are two gaps. So if there are 2,500 trees, then there's one less, that is 2499 gaps. And those 2499 gaps is basically the distance from the first tree till the last tree, right? Into 20 meters, and that's the length, correct? Or simply speaking, 2500 into 20, which is 50,000, minus 20. So we have 49,980 meters or 49.98 kilometers. That is the length from the first tree until the last tree. So A answers and BCE is out. Now the length of the road is 100 kilometers. That's just to confuse you further, so that some people are not able to break it down into 2,500 and 2,500. They might just think something otherwise. It's all about the language, how they interpret this part. So somehow, I don't know. So that thing is just to distract you. B doesn't really answer, so D is out. A is the answer. Okay, right. Moving on. Fifth question. For a sequence of numbers P, Q, R dot 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 up to Z, represented as A1, A2, A3 dot 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 up to AN, in that order, every nth term after the second term is found using the relationship this one. Okay. So what is the value of W? Right. So we have P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, and then X, Y, and Z. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 terms out here. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So they're asking what is W equal to. All right, so again, we don't have numbers in the question stem, so can't be solved. You have to use the statements given. So A, B, C, D, E. Yeah, the sequence repeats after every 6 terms. All right, all right. Fair enough. So it repeats after every 6 terms now, but then is it really giving us the value of W? No. So A doesn't answer, correct? Yeah. So A doesn't answer, D doesn't answer. So B, C, or E. Second statement, 2P plus 3Q is equal to 45, 5P plus 8Q is equal to 40. Okay, so these are two simultaneous equations, and when we solve them, we'll get the value of P and Q. So just for the sake of understanding, we'll solve it, but actually you don't need to solve. You know that, um, you know, you'll get the value of P and Q from the second statement, yeah, and then you have to simply apply this relationship out here. All right. Okay. So for example, if we find the value of P and Q, then the third term, yeah, the A3 is every nth term after the second term is found using this relationship. So when n is 3, it is equal to 3 minus 1, 2, minus 3 minus 2, 1, like that. So A3 is equal to A2 minus A1, A4 is A3 minus A2, and so on. Correct? Yeah. We're getting this relationship. So we'll work this out quickly and see what we get. Okay. So ideally, you don't need to work it out, right? And then we have pi p plus 8q is equal to 40. So we'll try and make this, we'll try and multiply the first one, yeah, by 2.5. Why we multiplying the first one by 2.5? It's an elimination method. So when we multiply this by 2.5, we get pi p plus 7.5q is equal to 45 twos are 90, 90 and 22.5, 112.5. Yeah. So then now we got our equations. We'll subtract the second from the first one. So this cancels out. We get 0.5 Q is equal to this, which is 17.5, no, 27.5. Okay. Yeah. No, my bad. 127.5. Negative that. No, my bad. Hang on. So we get 72.5 negative. Okay. Right. 1712. So 72.5 is what we get. Yeah. Negative. So now we multiply 10 on both sides. So we get 5Q is equal to negative 725. So Q is equal to negative 5 ones are 5, 5 fours are 20. So we get negative 145 for Q. So our Q is, negative 145. And using this, we can find the P value, right? So we substitute P in here, Q in here. So 2P plus 3 times negative 145 is equal to 45, right? So 2P is equal to 45 plus whatever this is. So that is 420, 435, correct? I'm sorry, my bad. Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay. I'm just double checking. All right. Okay, fair enough. Hmm. Okay, right. Right. So 2P is equal to 45 plus this number, which is 143. The is 420. Yeah. 420 and 5 theta is 15. So 435. So 2P is equal to 480. Yeah. So P is equal to 240. So 240 is this one. And then A3 is A2, that is A2, and this is A1, right? So A3 is 1 minus 145 minus 240, so we get minus 385, right? And then A4 is A3, that is minus 385 minus 145. So what you end up getting is, I'll just write down out here. So we get 240, yeah. Then we get negative 145, that's your Q. Then you get negative 385, yeah. And then the fourth term will be this minus this. So we get minus 385 minus of minus 145. So that is plus 145, right? So it's negative 240. And then negative 240 and negative 385 is plus 385. So plus 385 is 145 positive. And then 145 minus or minus this is positive 385. And then 385 minus 145 is 240. And then I think 240 minus 385, yeah, is going to give me my next term, which is minus 145. So yeah, the sequence repeats from here onwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they're asking what is the value of W? So you can figure out the value of W. W is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the value of W is negative 145. You can get to the answer. I just solved it. So just to explain it to you. So clearly, B gives us the answer. C and E is out. So fifth one is B. Okay. Moving on. Sixth. Right. A term deposit of 50,000 compounds to 82,000 in approximately how many years at X% annual rate of interest compounded quarterly? So we have to find out how many years. And so usually this is the formula. Yeah. Amount is P into 1 plus R, that is R is a rate, as in percentage raised to N. N is the number of times, yeah, it is getting compounded. All right. Anyway, so X% annual rate of interest compounded quarterly. So this is the annual rate. So when you're compounding it quarterly, we got to divide it by 4 because there are 4 quarters in a year. So we don't apply whatever the X% is on its own. We have to divide the X% because that's the annual rate of interest. How is it compounded? Quarterly. Because it's compounded quarterly, we'll take the quarter of the X% and solve it. So that is the formula that we use. Yeah. And this and to get the answer how many years, we just need to figure out if we can get the value of X, because once we get the value of X, that is, this is X out here, right? Then we can figure out the N. So this is what we want. Once we figure out the N, then we divide N. Suppose N was 44, then we divide N by 4, because this is 44 times it is compounded, right? So suppose it was compounded 4 times, then it is 1 year. All right, because there are 4 quarters. All right, 4 times in a year it is compounded. That means 1 year happens, right? They're asking how many years. So if it's 44, then 44 by 4 gives me 11 years. But this is just my explanation to you. Let's solve the question. Remember, we need to find X to get to N. Once we get X, we already know P is 50,000, A is 82,000. So all we need to do is find out X and we get the answer for N. We can solve it. Again, we don't need to solve it. We can figure it out. All right. So if a term deposit of 100,000, yeah, were deposited, then exactly 5 years, it would have compounded to exactly $161,051 at X% annual rate of interest compounded annually. Now we have out here 161,051, and it's exactly saying that one. Had we used the principal 100,000, yeah, and 1 plus X%, yeah, 5 years, and it is compounded annually. Annual rate of interest compounded annually. So from this expression, we can find out the value of X, and using that, we can find out the answer to our main question. So A, B, C, D, E, does it answer the question? It does. So B, C is out, and A and D is remaining. Okay. So first one answers the question, right? And just to let you know that this is the number we arrive at when X is 10%. When X is 10%, this is the number that we arrive at, correct? So when X is 10 out here, in this case, when X is 10, so it is already taken as a percentage. It's already taken as a percentage, right? Yeah. So X upon 100. Now, the reason we are taking X upon 100 and not 4 is because it's compounded annually out here. So don't solve it. Yeah. So this is already, solved and given to you. So you solved and given to you, meaning you already know that it is, it is a factual statement. This one is a factual statement. It's fact based. So you already know you can find out X, and X is 10. All right. I've worked it out before. Yeah. So if you work it out, you'll get X as 10. Yeah. You might have to use logs or a calculator to solve it. All right. So X is 10. And when you plug it out here, you'll get the value of N, because this will be 82. This will be 50,000. 10 by 4, you'll have to take 2.5%. So 10, 2.5 over 400. I'm sorry, 2.5 over 100, or 10 over 400 raised to N. You'll find the N value out here. All right. Anyway, second statement. To calculate the compound amount, the following expression is used. Amount is this, where this number of quarters in a year, X represents the annual rate of interest compounded quarterly. So again, like I said, uh, for GMAT and other, competitive tests, you're bound to know these formulas. Yeah, correct. You're supposed to. It's not that you're supposed to know, but you can figure it out. Even if you have not got the formula, you can figure it out. Okay. How you can figure it out? You can use a simple interest method and figure it out. So I'm not getting into the details. Like I said before, this is a solutions video for advanced math learners. So B doesn't really help us. It just gives you the formula that we already know. So B is out, D is out. Therefore, only A gives you the answer. All right, A is the answer. Seventh one. A bacterium, singular. If it's plural, it'll be bacteria. Okay, so this is bacterium, meaning single bacterium cell, doubles every 15 seconds. The moment the incubator turns green in a lab. Okay, find out after how many seconds the bacterium stops growing. Okay, so this one particular bacteria doubles every 15 seconds. All right, right. So this is a bacteria. So if it's one, it becomes two in 15 seconds. Correct? Yeah. And the surprising thing is doubles this bacterium doubles every 15 seconds. Right. So you'll say two becomes four, but that is kind of incorrect. Let me check. So there are two individual ones, one and one, it becomes two. So two and two is four. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. So one becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight. It doubles, right? It keeps doubling, right? So this is what we have. So what are they asking? Find out after how many seconds the bacterium stops growing. So we're not supposed to calculate what is the number of bacteria after n number of hours or n number of seconds. They're just asking, find out after how many seconds the bacterium stops growing. So we look at the first statement. When the incubator turns red, the bacterium stops growing, right? So find out after how many seconds. We have to find out how many seconds. All right. So A doesn't give us the answer. So D doesn't give us. So B, C, or E. Second statement. Every incubator is programmed to work continuously for 4 hours between the green and the red indicators, regardless of which pathogen is in the incubator. So every incubator is programmed to work continuously for 4 hours between the green and the red indicator, regardless of which pathogen is in the incubator. So from the look of it, we know that B will answer the question, right? Or we might feel that B answers the question, but then see, it's all about the language. Find out after how many seconds the bacterium stops growing. Now, does it does in statement B it tells us how or when the bacterium stops growing? It just tells us that the incubator works continuously for 4 hours between the green and the red light. We are assuming, just because we read the first statement, we are assuming that, okay, red means it stops growing. So we made a classic error out here, which many students do. Yeah. You have to take each statement on its own along with the question stem. Now out here, even the best, yeah, even the best, even someone who's an expert who's got 800 up 800, if he's not paying attention or she's not paying attention, she will make this classic error of considering the first statement that he or she's read along with the second statement to solve the question. But in reality, the second one doesn't answer the question on its own. All right. It just tells us that the incubator works for 4 hours continuously between the red and the green. We have assumed that the green means it stops growing, but that we've assumed that the red means it stops growing. Yeah, but that's not what is stated in the second statement. Therefore, the B doesn't answer. Now, when we take both together, we know for a fact that okay, red means it stops growing. Yeah, and they've also told us that the incubator works continuously, right? So once it's in the incubator, the only way it can stop is after 4 hours, right? And then we just need to figure out after how many seconds. So 4 hours is 4 into 60. 4 hours is 1 hour has 3,600 seconds, right? So 4 hours will have that many seconds. So that's your answer. Okay, it is 3,600 into 4, and that's 14400. Correct? Yeah. that many seconds. We don't need to calculate the answer, right? So we know that C will give us the answer. If you've chosen B, that's a classic error. So be careful. Eighth one. A digital alarm on activation rings for 5 seconds, right? With an interval of 1 second between two consecutive rings. All right. So there's an alarm which rings for 5 seconds, and then there's a interval of 1 second, and then again it rings for 5 seconds. Okay, right. So find out the number of seconds the alarm was active from the first ring until it was deactivated. All right. So can we get to the answer? Let's figure it out. Okay. So the alarm was deactivated on the second to the last second of the 10th ring. Again, confusing, convoluted language used out here. So this second to the last, yeah, second to the last simply means second last, right? Second last, like someone is in the queue. Yeah. So how do you describe the second last person or person who's standing second from the last, right? So the alarm was deactivated on the second to the last second of the second to the last second of the 10th ring, right? So basically what it means is, yeah, now suppose the 10th ring rings for 5 seconds. The alarm was deactivated on this one. The alarm was deactivated on the second to the last second of the 10th ring. Okay. So did you hear the fourth second ring? No. It was deactivated on this one. Correct? On the second to the last second of the ring. So it was deactivated out here. All right. So it is debatable as to whether you should include the fourth ring or whether you should not include it. So let's understand it clearly. Just for the sake of it, we know that we have to find the number of seconds the alarm was active from the first ring until it was deactivated. All right. So until it was deactivated. So the alarm was deactivated on the second to the last second of the 10th ring. So basically the second last second, right? Second last second. Is that what they're saying? All right. So it was deactivated on the second to the last second of the ring. Okay. So according to me, it rang once, meaning 1 second, second, all right, and the third second, and then the second last second it was about to ring and you deactivated it. Correct? So I'm trying to figure out that should you include the fourth second out here? All right. So according to me, it should not be included, right? Because think of it this way, the alarm was deactivated on the second last second. All right, just a second last second. So before it rang, you deactivated it. So basically you did not hear it. Correct? Now suppose you say the alarm was deactivated on the last second of the ring. Correct? So just for the sake of understanding, if you say it was deactivated on the last second of the 10th ring, right? Did you hear the last second ringing? Like it rings for 5 seconds. So did you hear it for the fifth second? No, because you deactivated on the last second. All right. Otherwise, you might as well as say, if you include the last second, then you might as well as say it was deactivated after the 10th ring, right or wrong? If you want to complete all the 5 seconds, you should simply say, why would you say it was deactivated on the last second of the 10th ring, right? So according to me, second to the last second should not be included. Now we'll just, for the sake of understanding how many seconds, number of seconds the alarm was active. So first ring, yeah, second ring, third ring, fourth ring, fifth ring, sixth ring, seventh ring, eighth ring, ninth ring. Yeah. Now remember, each ring is for 5 seconds. And that's your ninth ring. Okay. And between these, there are 1 second gaps. And there'll be a gap out here also. And then the 10th one, you'll include the 3 seconds out here, 1, 2, and 3. All right. You got it. For the 10th one, you'll include because it says 10th ring, right? So now 5 nines are 45. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 plus the 3. So we have 57 seconds out here. That, the number of seconds the alarm was active was 57 seconds. Correct? Makes sense? All right. So basically A answers, B, C, and E is out. Now the second one says the last ring of the alarm began exactly after 54 seconds. All right. Now the last ring of the alarm, now when they say the last ring of the alarm began exactly after 54 seconds, right? Now the question for us is when it was deactivated. All right. Find out the number of seconds the alarm was active from the first ring until it was deactivated. The last ring of the alarm began exactly after 54 seconds, right? Now, let's just assume that this last ring was when it was deactivated, all right? So we'll get the wrong answer, right? Even if we assume that the last ring is when it was deactivated, we don't know whether it's a 10th ring or whatever the case may be. But if we assume that the last ring of the alarm began exactly after 54 seconds, right? So even if it began after 54 seconds and numerically it would be correct, right? Numerically it would be correct because till here we have 45, 9 5 are 45, correct? Yeah. And we have this 9 seconds interval. So 45 and 9 is 54. So the last ring began after 54 seconds, but we don't know whether when it was deactivated. Was it deactivated, of the 10th ring? Yeah. It was the last ring of the alarm began exactly after 54 seconds, doesn't tell us when it was deactivated in the last ring, right? Or when the last ring began. So therefore, B doesn't really answer. It's just there to confuse you. So D is out. Only A answers the question. Yeah. All right. So intentionally, I've worded it this way. Yeah. So that I'm 100% sure that it will help the GMAT students, right? Not only to understand the math part, but also the language part that they use quite often in the GMAT, right? So these handouts, these worksheets will definitely help you, yeah, because it's designed that way. Anyway, um, ninth one. All right, now you might wonder that why have I, put a logic or an analytical question out here. So this is a logic question. Yeah. But nevertheless, let's look at it. Amy is taller than Rima and Rishi. If Dahlia is the second tallest among them, who is the shortest? Very simple question. They simply want out of the four students, now Dahlia is the second tallest, yeah. And clearly Amy is taller than Rima and Rishi. So Rima and Rishi come here, yeah. And Dahlia is the second tallest. So Amy is clearly the tallest. They're asking who's the shortest. Between Rima and Rishi, who is the shortest? All right. So first statement, A, B, C, D, E. Amy is 10 centimeters taller than Rima and Dahlia is 5 centimeters taller than Rishi. So let's assume that Amy is 40 centimeters tall. Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's obviously unrealistic, but just for the sake of solving the question, okay. 40 centimeters. And she is 10 centimeters taller than Rima. So clearly Rima is 30 centimeters. RE for Rima, RI for Rishi. And Dahlia is 5 centimeters taller than Rishi. All right. So Dahlia could be, um, if we have to go in this order, that Rishi is the shortest, yeah. So we can say this is 32 and this will be 27, correct? Yeah, 32 and 27. And so we know Rishi is the shortest. But then you can argue that if Amy is 40 and this is 30, Rima, correct? So you can very well have this as 32 and this as 37. Who's to stop you from having this arrangement? Correct? From statement A, I've made sure that there's a 10 centimeter gap between Rima and Rishi, and there's a 5 centimeter gap between Amy and Rima, 10 centimeter gap, and 5 centimeter gap between Talia and Rishi, as given out here. Yeah, correct. So the shortest could be Rima also, and the shortest could be Rishi also. I can have two arrangements out here. They both work out fine. So does A answer? No. A and D is out. I've just shown you with numbers. Okay, right. So now we look at the second statement. The difference in the heights of Rima and Rishi is exactly 4 centimeters. Now we know the difference in the heights of Rima and Rishi is exactly 4 centimeters, but we don't know whether Rima is 4 centimeters taller than Rishi or Rishi is 4 centimeters taller than Rima. So statement B, yeah, from the uh, stem, we know that Dahlia is the second tallest, but we don't know anything about the first statement. So if you can just put a finger on the first statement, yeah, if you just hide it, if you just hide it, yeah, and look at the question. Amy is taller than Rima and Rishi, right? Amy is taller than Rima and Rishi. Dahlia, so we have Rima, Rishi, and this one. Amy is taller than Rima and Rishi. Dahlia is the second tallest among them. Who's the shortest? So when you look at this order, correct, and the difference in the heights of Rima and Rishi, so we know that there's a 4 centimeter gap. We don't know whether it's RERI or RIRE. We don't know that. So second one also doesn't answer, correct? Yes. Now we take both statements together. When we take both statements together, we know this is the order. And we know that we need to have a gap of 4 centimeters between Rima and Rishi. So now we'll just tweak these numbers a bit. Yeah. So we have 40, correct? I'll take this to be Rima, 30. All right. And there has to be 4 centimeter gap. So let's say this is 26, then this would be 31, right? Because there should be a 5 centimeter gap between Dahlia and Rishi. If you look at this first statement out here, let me remove it. Yeah, got it. 5 centimeter gap. So I got the 5 centimeter gap. 26 plus 5 is 31. 30 plus 10 is 40. And I made sure there's a 4 centimeter gap between Rima and Rishi. But then again, I can take this as 40. I can make this Rishi and this as Rima, make this 30, right? And there should be a 4 centimeter gap, so I can make this 34, right? And this one, I'll make sure it is 39. 5 centimeter gap out here, Talia and Rishi, right? I've got Amy and Rima, 10 centimeter gap, and this. So clearly, who's the shortest? It could be Rishi also, it could be Rima also. Taking both together, so it's not answering the question. The answer is E, cannot be solved. Got it? Very technical, but it's an interesting question, a time waster really, but you'll have to work it out this way, and you have to really work it out fast. And there's a 90% chance that if you're doing well, this question will clearly turn out to be in the data insights of GMAT. Yeah. So out of probably 12 questions that you get or 10 questions that you get, yeah, because there are 20 questions data insights, right? And 10 would be clearly on 10 or 12 would be on data sufficiency, or 10 to 12 would be on the graphic interpretation and table analysis and multi-source reasoning and two-part analysis. So I'm pretty sure that this one question, if it comes, it will be when you're doing really well, and you're short on time. But yeah, but they've given good enough time. I think they've given in the new GMAT they have enough time. They have a standardized, I think, 45 minutes for each section. So I think, yeah, 40 to 45 minutes is there for each section. Anyway, So E is the answer. Let's move on to the last one. And must be wondering that it's not a sequences question, but I just felt like putting it in here. All right, 10th one. Every morning, a cake shop carries a sequence of steps in the following order: cleaning, rotating, replenishing, assorting, scanning, and tagging. Find out which step takes the most time. All right. All right. So we have to find out which step takes the most time. So linear graph of time versus, so it's always when they say versus steps, steps will be in the X and the first one will be in the Y axis. Okay. Right. Have the negative slope. Negative slope meaning the line goes like this, where the angle with the x-axis is obtuse. All right, negative slope. So suppose this was out here, step one, yeah, yeah, because it goes in that order, in the following order, right? In the following order. So the first one is cleaning, second one is replenishing, rotating, sorry. Third one is replenishing, fourth one is assorting, fifth one is scanning, sixth one is tagging. Like that goes, right? Yeah. So just to help you understand the time part, right, and how we get this graph. So let's say this is cleaning, yeah. Let's say this is 40 out here. So I'll just write down as step one instead of cleaning or C, right? So this is step one, right? Steps, and this is time. So 40 minutes, and that's how at 40 I've got my first dot. Then let's say step two is rotating, and that is 35 minutes. It takes 35 minutes, okay. And then we have replenishing, which is the third step, and it takes 30 minutes, let's say, and so on and so forth. We have the last one, tagging, right? So we have 25, 20, and 15. So we have these 6 steps out here, right? And so they're asking, find out which step takes the most time. So clearly, if it has a negative slope, right, then cleaning will take the most time. So A answers. From this one, A answers. Okay. Now, for those who are trying to figure out this and trying to think that what if they each take the same amount of time, right? If that was the case, then it wouldn't have a negative slope, it would have a zero slope. This red color line would be the line, zero slope. Because if it had, let's say, 20 minutes for each of them, right? So it would be at 20, you would have these 6 dots in a straight line, correct? So it has a negative slope. So clearly we know it takes the most time for cleaning, and it goes reducing. So A answers the question, B, C is out, E is out. Second one, time taken to complete a step reduces with each step in the sequence. So if this is my sequence of steps in this order, it reduces, time taken to complete a step reduces with each step in the queue, in the sequence. So it reduces. So clearly it's stating the same thing which I've just described in A. So B also answers. So now D is the answer. The only D in the entire worksheet. Anyway, so we are done. Thank you very much. And I have now word problems and data interpretation and logic. So, and work time, speed time. So work time, speed time, I'm planning to put it in one worksheet, word problem, second worksheet, D and logic at the third worksheet. So 3 more videos at the most. Yeah. Thank you very much.